and welcome to Policing TV. I'm Jason Harwin and I'm delighted to be hosting the first in a series of interviews exploring the role of the College of Policing. As many of you will know, policing is facing a number of significant challenges at the moment, and the College has a real key part to play in helping overcome them. To start the series, I'm delighted to be joined by an exceptional and distinguished leader that has the challenge and responsibility to lead the College during this time. That's the Chief Executive, Andy Marsh, QPM. During this episode, Andy will share with us some detail on his policing career. He'll talk about some of the highs and lows, what attracted him to becoming a police officer, and now as the Chief Executive of the College, and ultimately what advice would he give to anyone considering joining the police today. So Andy, a massive welcome, a massive thank you for, as always, your precious time. And so let's get started.
Well, thanks for having me, Jason. And you know, it's a privilege to lead and an honour to lead the College of Policing. So just to add a little 2 pennies to that.
No, great, thank you. So tell the viewers then, tell us about your last 37 years in public service. What have you been doing?
Well, I joined policing in 1987, and I guess this probably feels the same for anyone. It feels like it was yesterday that I walked through the doors of Avon and Somerset Constabulary with hopes, expectation, a bit of fear, excitement, trepidation. But I've policed operationally Bristol, Bath, Somerset as a uniform officer, significantly as a detective and as an SIO. I've learned a lot over the years, Jason, but since my senior career started, and I guess that would be 2006 when I did my command course, I've been a chief officer in Wiltshire and then fortunate to have been chief of Hampshire Constabulary, Avon, Somerset, and now leading the College of Policing in my third year. And one of the reasons why I'm still in it is I'm still learning. I've still got a lot to learn. That's one of the things that makes policing a wonderful career. But my goodness, we've got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, is it? Because the policing journey doesn't stop, does it? And again, I think like you've demonstrated, the transferable skills that you bring into policing, no matter what role or responsibility you take, are transferable in other roles in policing and outside policing as well. So what would you say has been some of the highlights for yourself?
Highlights have always been catching a criminal, solving a crime, preventing a crime, surprising or exceeding public expectations about just how brilliant British policing can be. So those have been marvellous. But I've done some things that I never dreamt that I would do, Jason, when I came into policing. I never dreamt that I'd be a chief constable. Crikey, I've surprised myself with that. But in my role leading the National Chiefs portfolio for international policing, I've been involved in policing improvement work in many countries of the world, in person, leading that work. And I'm not suggesting that we know everything within British policing. We most certainly do not, and we've learned from other parts of the world. But if British colleagues are watching this interview, to have some insight at a difficult time for British policing, just the esteem in which, the way in which you go about your business of neighbourhood policing, solving crime, responding to calls, whatever specialism you might be in. And the College of Policing, by the way, delivers over 100 specialised courses from Brighton and Harpley Hall, is home to the National Police Search Centre. Many of those specialisms are revered globally about the way to do things.
Yeah, and I think that's really important, and part of the conversation in the next episode, Andy, we're going to talk a little bit more detail about what the college is doing, and again, okay, importantly, how it's going to impact not just in terms of policing in the UK, but internationally as well. So please, we'll come back to that on the next episode.
Sure.
So what attracted you? 1987. What made you want to join the police?
Well, I wanted to do something with my life. I wanted a job that had a challenge that involved something outdoors, involved people, but most importantly was about making a difference. I guess I grew up in a generation when if you joined the police, that was what you intended to do for the rest of your life. I think some people joining still have that aspiration and vocational intention. But the opportunity to make a difference and do something meaningful is incredibly important, I think, to everyone in policing. And it was really important to me. It's perhaps one of the biggest motivators in policing is to make a difference.
Yeah, and again, importantly, we'll touch on a little bit more about what attracts you to become the chief executive for the college, and again, all your
Yeah.
experience you bring to that. But you obviously touched on some of the memorable bits, and obviously you're getting awarded the Queen's Police Medal back in 2018. Fantastic, recognising your distinguished service. How was that day? How was the special day when you got your medal?
Um, it was an overwhelming day because I took my two daughters and my wife, and I think I can speak for people in policing again. We can't do what we do unless someone is packing our parachute for the difficult days and the good days. So, most importantly for me, it was an opportunity for me to say thank you to my wife and my daughters for all of the support they'd given me. And Oscar Kilo is doing some work on appreciating and supporting families at the moment, which I wholeheartedly support. But I have got such warm memories of it. It also happened to fall on the 20th of March, which was my birthday. So what a special day that was.
Wow, amazing, absolutely amazing, and well worthy deserved as well with it. And again, I know there's lots of debate about recognising the service at all the levels, but again, the fact is the leadership you've driven around that is recognition for you being awarded the Queen's Medal as well.
Yeah, I mean, in fairness, what things I'm most proud of on the citation for that QPM was the work where we rolled out body-worn video in Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. The first big force, I think, from everything I've seen and heard globally, to personally issue body-worn video to all its officers. And actually, when I introduced and was involved writing the doctrine for the body-worn video that went out to forces in England and Wales, there was a lot of resistance amongst many chiefs. And that was a pioneering piece of technology that has changed the way we go about our business, and I think can and still will deliver more improvements. But I didn't do that because Andy Marsh had a bright idea. I did it because the sort of leader that I want to be is one that listens to people closest to the front line, and where they are expressing solutions to their problems, they say, "Hey, boss, you ever thought of that?" And actually, I remember full well, and I hope he doesn't mind me naming him. Steve Goodyear was the sergeant that walked into my office and said, "I've got a great idea. Why don't we do that?" And I said, "That is a great idea, Steve. Why don't we do it? And by the way, you should continue evaluating it through your work with the University of Portsmouth." And look what happened since. He was involved, and I supported him advising Barack Obama's administration when they rolled out 50,000 cameras in America. Policing, if you want to solve problems and you want to make a difference, my goodness, it brings a conveyor belt of opportunity. Opportunity is now here to solve those problems. And good leaders listen to the people around them and they give them the credit, which I hope I've just done in terms of Steve's great idea.
No, and Andy, in my time knowing you, you've always done that. So you're willing to challenge appropriately, but at the same time, you're there to support. And again, you encourage that innovation, which I think is really, really important. Again, an opportunity in the next episode, talk about the leadership work that's being done by the college. Again, how you look instilling that bit around frontline supervisors, all of it. So that's all to come. So viewers, if you're hearing it now, make sure you're listening to episode 2, when Andy will talk a bit more detail. So let's go back in time a bit, Andy, back to 1987. With all the experience of your last 37 years, if you was looking in the mirror now to a very, not young, but a younger Andy Marsh, what advice would you give him today for when you were joining then in 87?
Well, look, I mean, I was young, and although I was born in Toxteth in Liverpool, I grew up in Cornwall, and in many respects, I was naive. I remember the first person in a police interview that I realised had lied to me reminded me of my mum, and that was quite a big moment for me as a police officer. I think she could be my mum, and she's lying to me. But I don't think I would say don't trust people, be doubtful of people. I think sometimes, Jason, you've got to learn these things yourself. It's the dance we do of life.
Yeah.
But I could say I should have been more confident in myself. But to be honest with you, humility is a good thing in a leader, and we should stay humble and keep our feet on the ground. But the one bit of advice I think is credible, and I know we're going to come on to the role of the College of Policing. I wish I had taken my personal development as seriously on occasions as I took doing the job. So I loved catching criminals, investigating crime, preventing crime, and I threw all of my energy into it. I wish I'd taken a bit of time out, maybe to take one of the college bursary schemes. I wish, instead of trying to figure out how to solve all the problems myself, I'd looked at the literature of the evidence base, so I could have stood on the shoulders of other people a little bit more. And policing is a wonderful profession. I'll call it profession, but for a profession that should be world class at understanding and using evidence, we and I, that officer, that chief constable, I'm afraid sometimes didn't spend enough time paying attention to what good practice in the evidence base said.
Yeah, no, agree. And again, I know that's a lot of the effort at the college at the minute to improve how the service use evidence, how it's improving leadership. So again, we'll come back to the next episode. If I was to speak to some of your family and friends, Andy, how would they describe you?
Well, I mean, I do wonder whether all the stuff I've dealt with might have not knocked some of the fun out of me, and I that would be a shame, Jason, because I'd like to think they might say I had a good sense of humour, but it is serious work we do, and it does have a toll on us. I think that they would definitely say that I was consistent. They see the same guy on the telly talking about policing as they do dealing with issues at home. So consistent. And I think the third thing, of which I perhaps value the most, is kind. Is that I would always help people, try and see the best in people. Kindness makes the world go round, but in order to receive kindness, you have to give it, and that's difficult in policing sometimes because police officers are quite often on the end of rather a lot of unkindness. But I think the moment that we allow ourselves to be dehumanized or cynical is the moment we start to allow darker sides of the human condition to show themselves. So how do you stay kind? How do you stay true to your values and code of ethics? I'd hope my family and friends, and they're a tight group, would say that's me. That's what they recognise in Andy.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And again, and from my experience with you, I think I could certainly echo that. So definitely, and all my time, and it's been some challenging times around that as well, hasn't it? In many forums.
Yeah. So, goodness, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit then. Obviously, before we finish this first episode, obviously, what attracts you to become the chief executive at the college?
I have a degree of restlessness, and I've done a few jobs for a decent period of time now. Of my last jobs, none of them have I done for less than 3 years. But I was chief in Avon and Somerset for over 5 years. But I think if you want to prevail at a senior level as a leader, you need to find ways to keep yourself fresh. I remember working with the odd chief that wouldn't budge on an operating model or a risk because they'd got past the midpoint of their service and they didn't want to go. And I didn't like working with those people. I wanted to test new ideas, to make progress. And so if you can't do that, you should move on. And so I think ideal tenure for a chief, no less than 3 years. 5 years is probably ideal, which is what I spent. But I was not, Jason, in any way ready to leave policing. Policing is a fantastic opportunity to make a difference. And at a senior level, what an opportunity at the College of Policing for me to try and make a difference about the things that matter most to me, which do align to the college. So, for example, boosting the professionalism of everyone in policing. And that's not to say that we're unprofessional, but it is to say that it's a career that is complex and demanding, and it needs CPD and constant polishing in order to achieve consistency across a national, international, if we say England and Wales, and our partnership with Scotland and PSI, to achieve consistency on the things that matter most to the public around the evidence base and standards. And then actually something which we should all try and role model what good leadership looks like. And anyone who thinks that they're the finished article should probably shove off. So I'm not definitely the finished article, but actually to develop this concept at the college of our National Centre for Police Leadership to help everyone in policing to be the leader that they can be, that they aspire to be. What a privilege and what an opportunity, Jason, that I've been landed to do this. When I look back over the last 2.5 years, it's not necessarily panned out the way that I expected all of it to, but that's events for you, and policing deals with events.
Yeah, no, certainly agree. It's the having to be flexible, isn't it? It's that having a plan, but recognizing there's challenges on that route to delivering that plan as well.
I mean, I think when I came into the college, and I think we'll speak some more about this, I wanted us to be seen and described as relevant to what matters to policing and our communities, dynamic enough to keep up with the sector, and sometimes we were seen as rather slow, and then connected to the service. Now, if those three words describe a style of delivery of a vision, then it remains tantalizingly just out of reach. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and I would argue that with all of the issues and problems that policing faces, it needs an effective College of Policing more than ever before. And that's our determination at the College of Policing. We're rolling up our sleeves and living up to those expectations.
Yeah, and that's a nice link into to conclude this episode. But in terms of the next one, we are going to talk more detail about how the college is playing that part, and again, importantly, not just now but for the future as well. So, Andy, firstly, a massive thank you for your involvement on this first episode. As I said, on the next episode, we'll discuss the roles, responsibilities, and priorities of the college, and again, importantly, how the college is playing its part, not just addressing the challenges of today, but importantly for the future as well. So, for now, thanks for those watching. Look out for episode 2.